when it hits live because I pushed the button.
Tag all of us.
Yeah. Let me know when it hits.
It's on
I
now.
pushed, I pushed. All right. Okay, I'm trying to get back in it. All right, everybody. Good evening.
Greetings.
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me loud and clear?
I can.
Yes.
Rika,
Mhm.
can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, you
Christy,
guys.
hold that down in there, please. So,
Okay, let me change this to change it to public because I think it's not on public. All right, everybody, we should be good now. All right, well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Super
hey, how are
excited
you?
to have everybody on with us. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us tonight. As always, got the superstars in the building. Got a new face in the building, and
There we go.
an old face who just came back.
So, thanks for having me back.
Right. So we're gonna pray first, and then we're gonna get started. Is that okay with everybody?
That's
Sounds good to
fine.
me.
Awesome. Father, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for these, your people, that we get a chance again to share with. We pray that everyone is safe here in the Houston area in this inclement weather that we're experiencing. And Father, we ask you to bless us to say the things that would bless your people and benefit their ears as they receive it from us on tonight. Lord God, enlighten us to speak truth to power. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yeah, man.
Amen. Amen. So welcome, welcome,
Yeah.
welcome. We have a new person in the building. Young lady over there with that 49ers shirt on. Can you introduce yourself?
You make me laugh. I'm Rika.
Some
All
more.
right.
Tell us about yourself, where you hail from, what you do, who you are.
I'm from the Houston area. I currently live in Little Rock. I'm not. What do you want to know?
Well, that's enough. That's enough.
I
That's
work
enough.
for the Secret Service. No.
I know that's right. Well, you guys, this is an interesting topic. I called in Rika tonight. She's one of my great friends. I met her through our football network. 49 is in the building. And so we became really good friends. I've been knowing her for what, 3, 4 years now, something like that.
Yeah, like
Mm.
3 years.
Yeah, three
Hmm.
years now. And so she's an awesome lady. We always have these great conversations. So I truly wanted her to be on board with us tonight for this particular topic. So I'm going to read a narrative and we'll get crunk from there. More often than not, when we consider the term investment, our mind shifts to tangible things: properties, collectibles, stocks, bonds, pensions, 403bs, forex, precious gems, and the like. Yet, have we considered what it takes to invest in a relationship? What steps would be necessary in order to be worthy of an investor, and vice versa? In order to count up the cost, we have to know what it will require. Let's talk about this intriguing topic, yet necessary, and get into the thick of things as we explore love and the investment. How much does it really cost to be with your person?
Mm.
Aha, aha. So, Jason, we're going to get started with you.
Oh, good Lord. All right. What's up?
What up?
It wasn't me. No.
What you want to know?
No, we're going to get
What about
started
that
with you.
investment?
Oh,
Hmm
absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I tell you what, it's definitely work. I mean, I don't know if anybody, I'm assuming there's people out there that are financially literate. So they understand what we mean by when we say investment. Of course, you have to keep putting something into it
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily expecting an immediate return, if you know what I mean. So
Mm.
when you invest in somebody, basically what you're doing is that you're pouring into that person with the hopes of, I would like to think of a long-term relationship. So, it really starts there, and it's definitely a lot more than just any kind of physical. It's a lot more than just money. It's a lot more than just time. It's really all of the above. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong in relationships is they counter on one thing, whether it's the physical, the money, or whatever. You got to have a multitude of assets, if you will, since we're talking about investments.
Right.
You know, you have a multitude of assets within that relationship for it to grow and to prosper.
Absolutely. Miss Rika, give us your opening thoughts.
Well, when I was reading the narrative, the first thing came to mind for me as far as investing in a relationship is the mental and the emotional energy
Mm-hmm.
that it takes. And I think those are the things that we don't tend to think about that. We don't sit and think about investing our mental and emotional energy into a person and what we may not necessarily get back in return. We may not necessarily see the fruits of our labor, so to say, immediately. Because when two people are connected, I'm taking on your emotional state, your mental state. It's an exchange.
Right.
And depending on what that person has been through determines what you're going through. And you have to sit and find out if you're even stable enough or have the capacity to take those things on. So it's not just the financial side or the physical side, but the emotional and the mental side as well.
Right. Right. I agree. Mr. Dixon, your opening thoughts, sir?
So when I think about this, after having read the illustrious narrative, um, I think about it from the perspective of, if you look at it like this, so if I were to just show up tomorrow at the New York Stock Exchange, right, I would know nothing to do on the floor, right? So the point I'm making is, most of us, if you're going through a process like that, someone has to show you the ropes and teach you the rules of engagement, right? To learn. So I think most of us, we go in it wrong and we mess up and we go bankrupt because we don't understand what real investing is, period. So we don't know how to do it. And so I think it's, unless you, like you said, now most of us are going through it through trial and error. But the best way to approach it is really through communication. So you can kind of really, through communicating, you can figure out the commodities of both people. Who has what? You understand what I'm saying? And kind of figure out where you gauge, where you're going to invest most and where not. So where to kind of hold back and kind of steer even. Because sometimes you don't just want to go in and throw all your money on the table and lose it all that quick. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah, I think so. I go back to people being educated on investing in love, period.
Right. This whole idea came a couple of weeks ago. What happened was, there's this young lady that I know who, she's been with this guy for probably maybe 2 or 3 years. They had a great bond. They spent the time building up the trust, the loyalty, the intimacy, blending their families together, and all the like. And so what happened was, they finally decided that they were going to, well, we're going to go ahead and stay together so that way we don't have to keep spending money to live in 2 different households, because they had already set their wedding date. Everything, all the wheels were in motion. But what happened was, the child's mom, the little girl's mom, decided that since he was getting married, she was going to dump the baby on their doorstep. So the baby is like 3 years old, right? And so she was like, well, I didn't sign up for this. The girlfriend, she said, I didn't sign up for this. And I said, oh, yeah, that's part of your investment. You just didn't know it was on the back end.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it was.
You didn't read all the fine print.
Absolutely. And I said, you just didn't know that this part of the investment was on the back end. And I was explaining to her, I said, a lot of times when we get into these relationships, we don't really know what's going to happen down the road. We just look at the initial components of what we've done so far and what's happened so far, but we don't really know what's coming on the back end. I mean, think about it. None of us really would be shocked so much about not getting returns on investment, or possibly losing money, so to speak, losing love or whatever, if we kind of really counted up the total cost. And I think she left out of the equation the cost of the probability of that child coming to live with her, because the actual mom deceived them the whole while. She just played the role all the way until he said he was going to marry her. That's when the gloves came off. She was fine with him being with her other than that because, hey, she probably was accustomed to him having this girlfriend or that girlfriend or this girlfriend or that girlfriend, but it never crossed the bridge to saying, okay, I'm going to marry this woman now. So here it is. She literally rung the doorbell and got back in her car and left the baby on the doorstep.
And how old was the baby?
The baby is 3.
3 years old.
She is 3 years old.
Mm.
And so I was like, I said, that was cold blooded, but it made me think about the investment that comes along with all of dealing with a person. Because now you got another life encompassed in the equation. When you thought it was going to be 2, now it's become 3. You know, and the way that it became 3 was tragic, but for it to turn out right, it would have to be a whole lot of additional work encompassed in the relationship that they already built. Because this girl don't have any kids. So, you know, she don't know any first thing about dealing with children. So you can imagine how she felt. And she was like, I didn't sign up for this. So now she's giving the guy a hard time when it's really not his fault what happened. It's the baby's mama's fault.
To a degree.
But what do you do? Do you renege on the investment after you put all of it all into it? Do you just walk away? Or, you know, what do you really do when adversity shows up like that?
Well, it's interesting. I really don't know your friend. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm going. You fine.
No. I was saying I really don't know your friend, but I would like to think at some point during the courting or getting to know each other phase, this gentleman told her, "I have a kid" or "I have a child." You know what I mean?
Yeah, the mother was fine with it while they was dating. That's what I was saying. The mother was fine with it while they was dating. It was just when he said, "I'm gonna marry her," that the mama all of a sudden had a problem with it.
Well, I have a hard time believing that at some point this gentleman did not have his kid, whether it was for a weekend or several weekends, because obviously they didn't just meet each other and then just decide to get married. So there was a getting to know each other phase, a courting phase, an investment phase. And during that time, I would like to think this young lady had an opportunity or taken an opportunity to get to know this child as well. And that there would be a possibility that this child might actually come stay with them. So it almost sounds to me like somebody was being very unrealistic in what they were investing in. You know what I mean? If that makes any kind of sense. Because if you have kids when I meet you, and me and you are making a lifelong commitment, then basically I'm taking those kids on too. Whether they stay with you at that time or not.
Right.
Because there is a possibility. What happens if something happens with the other parent?
Right.
I mean, of course, you should be taking that responsibility and taking care of your kid. And if you're sitting here saying that I didn't sign up for this, then for one, you just showed your hand. Number 2 is you were very unrealistic in the first place, and that probably was not going to last. So that was just a waste of time.
Yeah. Kind of immature mindset to a degree too.
Well, I mean, exactly.
Yeah. But see, here's the thing. In a lot of cases, people always tend to gravitate first to what's shown on the curve. The stuff that's behind the stuff that's behind. They'll tell you that, oh, that's fine, we can be together, this, that, and other, until it's confronted. You know, people can deal with, like, let's just say, Jason, it's somebody you weren't married, and here's this lady, and she's into you, and you have 2 sons, right? And she's like, hey, Jason, and so she's into you as long as the sons really aren't a part of the everyday equation. She doesn't mind a holiday, or she can get your son a spring break, and then they go back home. But when it comes to those kids, whether they're good, well-behaved or not, coming into your circle and being a part of them, now it becomes, well, Jason, the other day I saw that when you was feeding your son, you didn't feed my daughter too. I didn't really like that. It becomes a war. It's an issue. And it shouldn't be that way, because really, if you're saying we're together, then whatever comes with you, whatever comes with me, we mesh together, we make it work. But people don't look at it that way. You know,
and
exactly.
That's true. And the reason why, I'm sorry, go ahead, Charles.
No, the other thing I was going to say real quick is about the part about her. Now, this is just me thinking from being a father, right? If I'm thinking from somebody and I have a 3-year-old child with this person, and she's cool that I have a girlfriend up until I get married, it's kind of hard for me to believe there wasn't no tiptoeing.
Uh-oh.
Right.
That's a movement of
Absolutely. Yeah,
somebody
that's some
that's
personal
tiptoeing.
feelings.
That's a tiptoe response. That's like saying, yeah, I know you got a woman, but we have our thing. It's okay. Oh, so you're going to commit? Well, guess what? You take your child. That's like a throwback. If I'm
Hmm.
listening to that thing correctly, it sounds like it, but who knows?
Well,
And I almost guarantee there was a conversation where she said, "I
Yeah,
don't want your son or your child over here." And
correct.
the mama knew that. And when they decided they was going to get married, the mama's like, "Oh, I'm about to throw a monkey wrench in that,
Yeah,
and just go
I'm
ahead
gonna
and drop
fix
the
him.
child
Yeah, I'm
off."
gonna fix him. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
or
Yeah.
I was thinking on this line, I was thinking that something that people do too, when they don't really want to be bothered with the other person's child, they leave all the responsibility on that parent. Basically,
Yep.
the
Mm,
child is there, but they're not participating while the kid is present.
correct.
You understand what I'm saying? So a lot of people do that too, and their person is okay with it because they just kicking it or whatever, or they just dating or whatever. But now and then if the kid is only coming periodically, like you said, Charles, on the weekend or
Yeah,
during the
holidays.
holidays
So
or
yeah,
whatever, that person might not feel like they got to put a vested interest into that kid because the
yeah,
child's not really present,
right.
basically. So they may have felt, she may have felt, well, I don't really want to, put a whole bunch of, I don't have to put a lot of energy into this because this baby only gonna come here, blah blah blah. And so I'm thinking in my brain, if they've been together for 3 years, it has to have been some type of pattern. I didn't think
Hmm.
about the probability of him still being physical with her. I think that would be very unfortunate, but I know it's realistic and stuff like that
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
But, there are cases like that where there hasn't been a tipping. It just has to be where that person just is still wanting that person. Some people just make it bad for another person because they just want them, not because they've necessarily
Exactly.
messed with somebody else. It's because
Yeah.
they want them and they can't. They know for sure now they can't have them. You understand what I'm saying?
But typically the first response though, when people make, I mean, you would think in 3 years, it's not a long time, but it is
No.
enough time to you to reach a resolve of accepting
Hmm.
your baby's father having someone else. It's enough if you're a grown person. So after a
Hmm.
while, most responses is when the game of chess between the baby mom and dad goes down. If the father makes a decision, heck, you could have a girlfriend, they're gonna take it for child support. Don't matter, you married or not. So if
Hmm.
you married, the next thing to do is let me go after your pocket. Since you chose her, let me get the money part. You can have her, but I'm gonna get the money. That's typically the typical response. But when she dropped the kid off like that, it almost the first thing that runs to my mind is he was with the person, being with her, being engaged or what have you, but he was still playing somewhat house with this other person and being over there,
Right.
being like the pseudo dad, being present. And then when he made that quick, abrupt shift and move, she said, "Oh no, I'm going to do the most drastic thing possible and put this kid on the porch. You're not going to
Yep.
leave me out here like this." You know what I'm saying?
That's a knee-jerk
Yeah,
reaction. Yep.
Yeah.
that's
Right.
messed up. Rika, what are you thinking over there, Ladybug?
All kinds of things. I guess the main thing is your friend and her mindset. I mean, that whole, just like you were saying, the whole, well, some people, the other person in the relationship doesn't feel it necessary to build a relationship with that person's child.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I don't necessarily agree with that. I do see it happen a lot, and I don't understand it. Relationships are a big deal for me. So
Hmm.
I'll just use myself as an example. When I got with my husband, I had 3 kids already.
Hmm.
And over the years that we were together and we got married, we ended up having 4 children together ourselves. But not until I would tell people that the older 3 were not biologically his, no one knew he treated them the same. Because the
Mm.
way I treat my children is the way anybody's going to treat them. The relationship has to be there. So
Right.
even if the expectation wasn't, she thought that far in advance of the child possibly coming to stay there permanently,
Mm-hmm.
but she still have to had anticipated every other weekend, a month or so during the summer when the baby's sick and he's off or she's off. Like
Mm-hmm.
at some point, there should already be a relationship established with that 3-year-old
Mm.
between your friend and the
Right.
baby.
Right.
And at this point, so yeah, maybe I anticipated a few weekends here, doctor visits here, just little small things here and there and not full time. Well, whatever energy or whatever thoughts that she put into doing it part-time, now her reality, should she choose to stay in it, it's full-time.
Right.
It's not about, I can understand her saying she didn't sign up for it. I just don't know how that's possible, knowing that
If she knew,
he
if
has
she
a
knew he had
child.
a child, if she knew he had one,
Right.
yeah.
So that's like me right now. I'm not dating anybody. I'm not ready to date. Me and my husband separated a few years ago. But when I'm out places and guys approach me, the first thing out of my mouth, I tell them, like, look, I have 7 children. I have a granddaughter. Like, I'm not looking for anything, but these are the things that comes attached to Rika.
Right.
Yeah, the majority of my children are grown and self-sufficient, but I always tell my kids, don't lose your apartment, don't get evicted, whatever you need, call mama first. Just don't come back home. But
Right. I know that's right.
should it have to happen, any man that's willing to be in my life, and let's just say we're on the verge of getting married, he has to anticipate those things. Those are things that we're going to talk about, even though it's me with the standard of telling my grown-ups, like, please don't lose where you stay. Let mama go broke and help you so you don't have to come back. Mama did her time. But
Right.
he has to know that, yeah, her kids are grown, they're self-sufficient, they rarely need her, but what if?
Life
That
happens.
has to be
Right.
and it has to be something that we talk about. Some people
Right.
say that that's overthinking, and that's where the counting up the cost comes in at.
Mhm.
Because it's all types of things. It's not just with children. It's because I'm taking on your family, I'm taking on your issues, you're taking on my family, my issues, everything. Those are things we don't talk about. Those
Right.
are the things we kind of like just let happen, and we shouldn't, because when we just let them happen, when real life happens, we're not prepared. We've not had this conversation. If that man knew that the possibility of having to have his child full time under the same roof as his girlfriend, that she wasn't going to like it, he would not be possibly trying to move in together.
True.
Right.
Because
True.
if that's something that they've talked about and know that that's something that she's not willing to deal with. Since they're not married, I'm not going to pass judgment on her feeling like, hey, I didn't sign up for this, because if she's not ready for that responsibility, this is the time to
Bail
make
out.
that decision,
Yeah.
step
It's
back.
true.
Because at this point, it costs nothing.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you waste the
Right.
time, but it costs nothing. You've not went before God. You've not pledged to honor this man through the thick and the thin. You've not did any of that at this point. So you can
Right.
walk.
Right.
And that's just it. At this point, if she goes into it and with that same mindset, and even for him to marry her with
That
that
would say a
mindset,
lot about him. That would say a whole lot about him if he did that.
that means
That
that
says a
you're
lot about him.
Yeah.
into a situation
That
and
makes me
getting
think about the investment of integrity at that point. That's what I'm thinking about. That's what comes in my mind when I think about the investment of integrity. When you think about this whole equation, because somebody is lacking integrity in this concept of thinking. Like you said, somebody didn't count up the total cost of the investment. They didn't mark that off on the checklist. I think it was about a week ago, Charles, when you said something about a relationship checklist. Remember when you had and one of the checks wasn't marked. Well, it's obvious that integrity wasn't marked on their checklist. So somebody lacks all of the ethical standards when it comes to a family, because I mean, like you said, it is kind of weird to me how she felt like she was bombarded. I really couldn't gather what all that meant. You know what I'm saying?
Either she didn't have all the facts. Either she didn't have all the facts, or it's impossible to me to see that she was dating this guy. And if he told her he had this child, I can see if he didn't tell her. But if he told her all along in the beginning, that's the time she could have said, "Look, I'm not trying to be nobody's mother," like most people will say
Right.
at that point. And no one waits till you get engaged and say, "I'm not signing up for this." It makes no sense. So yeah, I don't know.
But you know what? Honestly, though, I mean, truthfully, I have heard guys say, "My child is not your problem." I'm trying to date you, but my child is not your. I've heard guys say that, and I literally.
But there's a truth to that.
I agree.
There's a truth to that.
I have walked away from guys like that because I'm like, are you serious? What you mean? Your child is a part of you. What you mean your child is not?
Well, that can mean not your responsibility at that moment in time. I mean, that can just be, hey, let me get to know you. Let's make sure this thing is real. Right. And then if we're going to move forward, let's get you introduced into the child's life and everything else. And I mean, I can respect a guy that would say, or a lady that would say, hey, you know what? My child is not your problem as of right now. And I'm like, cool. But see, me as a man, if I was single and I was still out dating, and of course, a lot of people, especially our age, has kids. Mm-hmm. So if I'm dating someone and there's a father in the picture, my expectation would be for the mother to keep the father at bay if he wants to act up and everything else. Right. As long as it don't get to being overly disrespectful or something like that. Right. You know, and I understand you may say, well, hey, the kids are my responsibility and everything else, and I respect that. But if I'm spending time with you and your kids are there, that is now our responsibility.
But that's what I'm saying. Though. I wouldn't necessarily use the term "my child is not your problem." I wouldn't necessarily say that. I wouldn't put it out there like that because it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound. It sounds like the guy is unplugged from his child. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know what he was really trying to tell you? What he was really trying to say to you, and he didn't really, like you said, maybe he didn't. He was a little brash. But what he was trying to say is, look, just get to know me. I don't need you pretending to like my kids this soon. Just give it a break and let it be organic. Don't just come in. Let's go get something to eat. Go do all this, all this pretending. Yeah. There's a way to be nice to a child, and then there's a way it becomes like the person is forcing themselves on the child. And so maybe he didn't want you doing all that. Probably.
I agree.
Well, I didn't know it was little nappy head baby, so it didn't matter.
Oh Lord, there we go.
Look at it like this.
Baby may have had waves. Baby may have had waves. You ain't got to call him little nappy head. I'm just saying. I'm messing with you.
Go ahead, Rita.
See, like with me, I say I'm old school. So my children, they've only ever been around my husband. My older kids, they have a relationship with their dad or whatever, but in a relationship, intimate way, all my children know it's my husband. They grew up and they realized, okay, now if this is my daddy and my husband's not their daddy, they know something happened in how they got here. Right. But they've only been around my husband. And even though my kids are older, my mindset now is that because I keep saying I'm never doing it again, but I said I wouldn't restrict what God had for me. If I ever got to a point where I was going to get married again, at the instant of the proposal and a yes, that's when that man gets to meet my children. If I'm casually dating and talking to somebody, you don't get to meet my children. My children are well taken care of. They're well provided for. I'm not looking for a daddy. I'm not looking for a stepdaddy. So, my children are not necessarily your concern. You're dating Rika. Rika have all these children, but Rika got all of this part of her life under control.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
She said the same thing.
Absolutely.
Hey, Rika, can I ask you a question, though? Can I throw you a curveball, Rika, on tonight?
Okay, break me.
I heard you mention your children being self-sufficient and having their places, right? Are there any that would need their mouse fed? Are there any that would need their mouse fed? If that is the case, it is to a degree there needs to be a psychological visitation of the children before the marriage. I'll tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. A huge thing, because I'm with you to a degree, but a huge thing that happens is this. There's like how people get along under one roof with a single mom or single dad. They make it work however it works in their dynamic, right? It's a whole nother, put it like this. I can already tell you the way Jason is, even though he's a good dad, I can tell you he's not fond of disrespect at all. So the point I'm making is this. You put somebody in the household and maybe like Ricky, your kids may mind you all day long, right? But as soon as we get ready to get married, I'm like, let's go ahead on, baby. Here you open the door, here go the kids. And I'm like, what's going on? But anyway, so listen, we get together, we get married and everything, and all this is good. And then like everything is great. We go, we get married, we go honeymoon, we come back home, and as soon as we come back in the house, I'm not gonna force myself, and tell trying to be like a ruler around the house, but I'm gonna be a man, right? So at some point,
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying, you might want to clean your room up. You shall, you ain't my father. Get out my face, slam. So
Yeah.
those are the kind of things, especially if the mom says, let's just say, especially if the guy goes to try to say, look, that wasn't cool. Don't talk to my son like that. Cause see, I got this over
No,
here.
at that point we get an annulment.
But that's the
I
point,
am
though.
so
Don't
not,
happen. See,
I
this
am
is
so
why you
not
gotta
their,
get a
you
woman.
know, so not their parent. Oh my God! But I understand
I
that.
know.
But
Right,
even when even though you were just using it as an
right,
example, I
right.
felt my blood start to boil because of one
Yeah,
of my children
did
would
Right.
that,
address
did that.
Right.
on the
Right, right,
in that manner. Yeah,
right.
no, I'm not
Yeah,
the
I
parent, but
get
I
you. I get
understand what you're saying.
you.
But it's to the point where it's a serious situation and there is talk of marriage,
Yeah. Right.
then
Then
okay, then
maybe. Then
I
maybe.
can stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can stop letting them
Okay.
be ghost kids and at least interact. But
Right.
that's my biggest challenge. It's
Right.
because that whole blended family thing,
Mhm.
it all
It's
comes
hard.
with its
Yeah, it's
set
hard.
of stress.
Right.
Yeah.
And so doing it the right way is important. But I'm just not a fan of I'm talking to Billy for 6 months, and Billy
Right.
got to meet the kids. And
Right.
month 7, my kids are like, "Where's Billy?" Oh no, I'm not gonna play those games.
Right.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm gonna take my kids around different. I've never been like that. I won't be like that now.
Right.
But I understand because my younger two right now are 12 and 9.
Mm. Okay.
So those would be the ones that, just say for instance, a year or two from now, that would come into play. That would be the biggest deal because those two are coming attached to me into this
Correct.
new home or
Correct.
whatever.
Right.
And so then we're looking at teenagers and going through puberty and smelling themselves
Mm-hmm.
into
Right.
older
Yeah.
people's
Yeah.
play.
Yeah.
So there
Right.
may be a couple of slaps upside the head that mama would have to provide because that's the type of mama I am. But yeah, I could understand that. And especially with my younger kids, because all they know
Is the
is
father.
their dad.
Yeah.
And so then that's a conversation that me and my children would have independent of my future husband
Mm.
to explain to them that this is how life is set up, this is how life is going to work. And because they're so much older, because I'm a firm believer that there's nowhere in the parent handbook that says that the father cannot raise the children full time
Right.
either.
Right.
At that
Mm-hmm.
point, my children would have that conversation. They get to meet Mr. Soon to be, and we start working on a relationship. And if for some reason it's not connecting like it should,
Back off.
yeah, I'm gonna stay with your daddy.
Mm.
I'm just,
Oh,
I'm just.
You done
so
went
you're
and kicked
saying,
him out the house.
so if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying
I
you're
was
not going to
told
let the, so you're not going to let the breakdown interrupt the connection. What you're trying to say?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not
The
because
kids,
guess
the
what?
kids shouldn't have the power over that. The children shouldn't have that kind of power over those type decisions.
Right,
That's not
because you're
their.
Unfortunately,
raising the
unfortunately, they
Right.
children
do.
to
A lot of
lead.
times they do.
Right.
Yeah,
So
they do, but
let's talk about the investment of time. I know that
Absolutely.
I know a lot of what the rise and fall of relationships is because people don't spend enough time together. And
Correct.
they don't have enough time to really get to know the person, get acquainted, figure out what their likes are, their dislikes, what makes them tick, what irritates them, what frustrates them. A lot of people don't become students of their person by that investment of time. What are you guys' thoughts and views about that? Charles, we'll start with you.
Oh.
Oh, boy, you think it's
Hey man, I started early. It's on you now. Come on.
Don't even try it, Charles.
All right. Here's the thing.
Don't
Here's the
even
thing.
try it, Charles.
This time, the investment of time is probably one of the most important investments, period, right? That we could talk about on the show.
Right.
And it's in because honestly, when a person is giving you their time, they're giving you them. And that's
Right.
it's a lot because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
think about it in this day and time, I say all the time, it's filled with tons of distractions and we can even if we wanted to make up things, there's a million things we can say we got going on, right? Or we doing this, that, and the other. But at the end of the day, we are tested. We really are tested when we are able to just say, look, I know my life is set up this way, but I don't want to be selfish and self-centered and leave out something very important to me. So I must carve out this space and time, and also be flexible to time that may not be planned at times, right?
Hmm.
If I wanted to make this work, and it's sometimes when you kind of focus and you kind of doing your life a certain way, it's kind of hard. But if you want to be realistic and you really want what you want, you gotta have an even exchange. You can't leave the other person bankrupt. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
it is easy. It is easy to be involved in a situation where the person is more starved than you, and
Right.
because you the selfish person, you're like, I know you're hungry. Just wait. I'm gonna feed you tomorrow. And the person's like, I want to eat right now, but
Right.
we like just wait till tomorrow. I'll give you some time tomorrow. I don't have time today. But time is a major thing because it's ugly and we don't want to look at it this way, but I'm just gonna tell you, I've seen it on the black side of things. And I don't mean color when I say black. When I say I'm talking the bad side, I've seen it where people who were quote unquote, like we were talking on the show last night, malnourished the time, they resorted to other time with someone else because
Right.
they weren't getting their time. And so,
Right.
and in some cases, I've seen people that they'll just come around you and maybe they don't even want any sex. They just kind of want your time. Let's go out
Hmm.
to eat, let's go do this, and then when the night's over, okay, well, thanks for hanging out. I have already had a good time. They just
Right.
want your time. And in some cases, people, and this is what I could never really equate. So my thing is, if somebody really is starving for time
Mhm.
and you want to go out, you want to go on a date, you want to do this, how come the other person that they always end up finding, why does it end up in the bed if you want time? Why does the other person
Hmm.
why does it end up to a sexual creep if you really just want time? What are we really looking for? You understand what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, I think that goes along with, like I said about earlier, about the integrity component. Some people
Right,
just
right,
lack that integrity to tell the truth about
right,
what their real
right,
intentions are. If it
correct.
always ends up in the bed, then that's not integrous in that
Yeah,
they're
that's a
saying
different
to
value
you,
system. Yeah.
right, and that's not that's a part of this investment stuff to find out if this person is really integrous. If they're talking about time, time means just that.
Time is
It
time.
doesn't
Time
have
is
an attachment, right? It doesn't have an
right.
attachment to it. And I'll go so far as to even say we don't have to go out. If you're talking about genuine time, time is not attached to expenses. You understand what I'm saying?
Both
So
places or
maybe you can
things. Yeah,
say,
yeah.
hey, I just want to have a day where you and I stay here. I know we got to eat, so somebody can cook something or we can order in or whatever the case might be. But we don't have to go spend all this money somewhere, here, there, the other in this
Right,
particular scenario because I'm just looking to connect to you,
right.
independent of the whole world. And
Yeah,
it's no,
that's
and
a
there is no physical expression attached to that
yeah,
equation. So
yeah,
there should be a component to where your person's truth about what their intent is. If they're coming at you for a physical expression, then that investment of time is not the
yeah.
same investment of time as intimacy, which does not
Correct,
have physical expression attached to it. So it needs to
correct.
be defined as, hey, I got a need that needs to be met. Also, coupled with the fact that I did want to see you, but I do want you to do something else too. I don't just want to
Yeah,
see you.
right.
So it needs to be stated that way, so the other person won't feel like they're being taken advantage of, or not. You're not really being honorable, or whatever, because that can make a person shy away if they feel like they're being used.
Yeah, because if we're being honest, in our age group, what it's a twofold thing because what comes with that quality time is definitely a component of dating, right? It's
Right,
organic dating, but it's
right,
also a truth component of maintenance. If we're being
right,
honest, people
right,
want to see you on this day. I need to see you because I really need to see you. Another day, are we going out to eat? But I need to see you on this day. So it's like a duality working. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
But it
Yeah,
needs to be stated so nobody
yeah,
won't feel like they're being slighted or somebody's not being forthcoming or honest. Because this might be a particular day where you say, "Oh, I don't want to. I don't feel like it. I don't want to.
right,
I may be
right.
tired.
Hmm.
I mean, I'd be like, Charles, but come on, man. I'm trying to." You be like, "No, I just said I'm tired." So it needs to be stated so nobody can find, so there won't be a problem later on and some type of conflict comes out as a result of that. So, it's better to go ahead and state the obvious than for somebody to get hurt or irritated on the back end and then it becomes some kind of problem later on, you know, where
Mm,
it's a misunderstanding and miscommunication.
right.
Jason, I see your wheels spinning up there. Go on, say what you gotta say, Jason.
Yeah.
Your face telling on you.
Yeah, I don't have the best poker face. In terms of talking about time, especially when I was in the streets dating, whatever. One of the things I will say that used to irk me, and this goes back to communication, is I remember a few ladies that I had dated at, during the course of whatever, would sit here and say, I want you to spend quality time with me. Let's spend some quality time. Now, granted, we didn't spend half the day together. We're now sitting on the couch, laying on the couch, whatever. We've already eaten and everything else, and we're sitting here watching movies, and they're talking about quality time. So that kind of goes into what you were just talking about, Coffee, because I'm like, okay, so what I'm feeling I'm giving you in terms of intimacy, and we're spending time together, whether we laying on each other watching movies, whatever, or it's like if you just wanted sex, say, speak on it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But if you're
Right.
telling me you want quality time, and then you tell me it ain't always got to be physical, and I'm
Mhm.
sitting here and we're watching movies and spending time together, talking or whatever else, and you still telling me to that you want quality time, at the end of the day, I'm like, what are you talking about? Because in my opinion, I'm sitting here giving you something that I can never get back. I'm sitting here, what I'm saying, giving you a piece of me that other people want.
Right.
Yeah, they might want that physical and everything as well,
They
but
want the
at that
time.
moment, there's other people
Yeah.
who probably want to be right there where you are
Right.
right now,
Right.
and who would probably STFU and just enjoy themselves. You know what I'm saying? So when I used to hear,
Wow.
hey, you put me on the show because I can liven it up. But I'm trying not to curse. But that used to just be mental time. 'Cause I'm like, yeah, you getting something that nobody else
Oh
is
my
getting.
gosh, I wasn't ready.
You know what I mean? So it's like, you telling me that you want some quality time. It's like, well, to me, that's that quality time. I'm spending time with you where I could be out working on the car, cutting the yard, whatever.
Whatever.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm sitting there spending that time with you. So, I don't know. I mean, time is very important. I agree with Charles. I agree with you as well, Coffee, But with that time also comes, I guess, a form, communication because, like I said, I can go back and make money. I can't get time back once I spend that with you,
Absolutely.
But here's the other component of time is sometimes here's the thing when you're dating somebody sometimes there's that imbalance of what each other has going on. Let's just say Jason, if he wasn't in a married scenario, he's working and he's acting, so he's busy. If he wants to be, he can really be busy. So let's just say the other person just really maybe they may have their job, they don't do nothing else, and he's like, all right, I'm off and ready to see you, and he's like, okay, maybe later, I gotta go to my rehearsal. You know what, you don't have time for me, you just don't have time. And so that's a popular component, and it's not fair
Mm-hmm.
because it's an imbalance, but it's really not fair because you don't have the same time parameters as that person may have. So is it
Right.
fair to just say they don't have the time because you don't have nothing going on? You know what I'm saying?
But see, that's the investment of give and take right there. That's where the give and take part comes, where you have to be willing to accept whatever that person's lot is and be able to say, okay, well, I understand that your schedule says this and that and the other and blah, blah, blah. Although the expectation is still there for you to give me time, but it has to be encompassing what you can afford, basically. So if you're gonna go bankrupt trying to give me time and neglect your other responsibilities, then that's not a healthy relationship. That's not fair. That's making somebody go bankrupt. That's causing somebody to not be able to have deposits in their account. That's a whole lot of withdrawals with no deposits. So that's not being fair to the whole big picture of that relationship. So that's the give and take part. It's like, and then the shoe may end up on the other foot one day where she may find something else of great value that she wants to dive into. And then you got the sowing and reaping and the give and take at that point. It's like, now you asked for me to do this. And when I wasn't able to do it, I didn't, but I made concessions for you and I made sacrifices to meet your need. Now I'm asking you to do the same. So we get back what we give out. We have to be aware and cognizant of that. If we're not willing to give it out, then we shouldn't be looking to get it back. You know what I'm saying? In any part of the relationship, instead of looking always outward, we need to be looking at what we can give versus what we can take away. So how many deposits can I make versus withdrawals? So if the man busy, the lady's gonna have to make the right concessions and accept whatever he has going on in all fairness. And if she can't handle it, she's gonna have to find her a person who has a more of a bigger timetable
Flexible
to be able to
schedule.
give
It's
to
not
her.
yeah, okay,
Yeah, if that's what she really feel like she needs, then she gonna have to find somebody that can meet that need.
yeah.
Rika, I see your brain over there. Your brain is showing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Talk
She getting a little antsy back there.
right?
One thing, because I know me, I'm always busy. So I always say things like, I'll probably be single forever because the way my life is set up,
Mhm.
it's just me making time for me right now. I
Right.
work, I have so much going on. There's nothing that goes on in my life right now that even tells me that I could even be considering giving somebody my time. However, should I meet that person, I know where things can be tweaked and set up
Right. Right. The
and
adjustments.
given to that person. But when you meet a person, that's why you have communication and you find out the type of person that you're dealing with, because 9 times out of 10, who that person is when you meet them, that's the same person they'll be should you decide to go a step further into marriage. So
Hmm.
I hear a lot of women say things like, well, those that's never been married say things like, well, I can't wait until I get a husband so I don't have to do this. I'll have somebody to help me do this. I'll have somebody to take me on dates all the time.
Not true. Not true.
But that's not necessarily how it really works. I'm
Right.
not saying that it doesn't happen at all, but it depends on who you married. My
Right.
husband was a truck driver. When we first got married, he was over the road. And then when he went local, he worked such a funny schedule. He'd leave home at 4 o'clock in the morning on the way to work. And sometimes he didn't get home till 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. So to say things like, oh, okay, well, Wednesday when you get home, I want to go to the movies. He's going to sleep in the movie theater.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He's working 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. So that left the burden of football practice, picking up the kids, groceries.
Right.
I did
Right.
everything almost as though I
Right.
was single
Right.
because he needed to go make the money too. I mean, I work from home, so I was at home making the money, my portion of the money and still doing those things. But he made sacrifices.
Hmm.
There would be days he'd call me, he'd say, hey, I'll be home about 8. We're gonna go to the movies and I promise I'm gonna stay awake this time. That
Oh.
right there meant the world to me
Right.
because
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to do it because I knew he would be tired. Some days after working 10 to 12 hours myself, running with them kids, he pull up in the garage. I'm taking his plate out the microwave. I'm fixing his plate. And I'm like, dude, I'm about to shower. I'm going to lay your stuff out. And some nights we just went to sleep.
Right.
So it was, but when he did make those sacrifices and we had to figure out, what was the best time to have some one-on-one time.
Hmm.
So I knew he was a workaholic. I was a workaholic, but we made it work.
Right.
So, and then something else you were saying about the quality time that you were making and that didn't seem to be enough, or I don't know, it wasn't taken for what it was. I'm a very verbal and upfront person. I've met guys and I've talked to guys and they'd say things like, oh, Rick, I want to spend some time with you this weekend. Sure, what do you mean by what kind of time you trying to spend with Rika? Let's
Right.
talk about that.
Right.
Like, so that there's no misconception. If
Right.
you're saying you want to come take me out, oh, that's fine. I'll meet you there.
Right. Right.
I'm gonna come on home because if that's all we're doing, that's all we're doing.
Right.
So it's all about communication. And people make time for people and things that they want to make time for. I grant that some relationships has to be creative to make it work, but that's only when you have two like-minded people or two people that fully understand the concept of I have a life, you have a life. Let's see how we
We
can
can bring
combine
it
the two.
together. Right. 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 And see, that's the whole process of the maturation component in the equation of the investment, the investor and the invested. And a lot of times people don't even realize this, but you have to be counted worthy to be invested into. People don't even
Mm-hmm.
look at that equation. They want somebody to give them this and give them that and do this and do that, but they haven't even been counted worthy to be able to have what it is that they seek after. Some people are not willing to go through that process to be proven. It's like if you think about anything else, if you go to any other company, any reputable company, there's a certain amount of time where you have to prove yourself
Yep.
worthy to be able to stay. Yeah, you said what you had to say to get it. Everybody says what they have to say to get it. But now you got to earn what you have.
Hmm.
That's right.
So there's a process of earning that comes into place when we think about these relationships where people don't want to do the actual get in there and dive in and do the work to say, okay, now you're worthy of this and the other. Because if you give somebody all that up front, I mean, what are they going to work towards? What is there to build upon? If you just give everything all out front, then at some point, a lot of times people end up getting burnt out by bankruptcy because they gave too much too fast and they didn't have a build up. There was no concrete poured. They poured the concrete and didn't even wait for it to get totally dry before they started trying to put a frame up. You know what I mean? So a lot of times people want something that they have not earned.
Mm.
So sometimes when it comes to investing, if anybody knows about investing in businesses, all that kind of stuff, it's a lot of work initially. It's a whole lot of work
Mhm.
before you see the fruit come out. The fruit's not coming out on the front. So
But here's the
you're investing and investing and investing and investing, and you're waiting on the return. You're building up to the return, but you have to do the work of investing first.
But the problem is most people will step into it saying, "This is what I deserve." Like, I get what you're saying, but they're
Ooh,
going
you
to
said a
tell
lot
you,
right there.
but this is what I deserve. You know what? Because I was with my ex-husband and my other boyfriend, and this is what I got. Blah
But
blah
that's
blah.
the
So this is
operative
what I
word. That's the
deserve.
operative word. X.
Yeah,
You ain't with
yeah.
them. If that's
Right,
you ain't with them. If you want
right.
them, you need to go find out where they are so you can be with them. If that's how you feel about it,
But a
I
lot
hear
of
you.
people
Very true.
use
But
that
that's
as
not
reference. Yeah, a lot of people will use that as
not
they'll say, "This is what I'm used to. I'm used to a certain amount of time." And so it's not that it's I get it, but at the same time, everybody's different. Everybody's
Go get you
availability is different.
go get you somebody that can give you what you used to. I mean, it's a hard pill to swallow, but it's the truth. I mean, it's no need of competing with a ghost. I
Yeah.
always say that. You can't compete with a ghost. I can't see none of what you're talking about. I wasn't there when it happened. I wasn't a part of that equation. So if you want to sign up for this company, you're going to have to do what applies here. And you're going to have to adjust
Hmm.
yourself and govern yourself accordingly. So if you want to go to the X company that you used to be with, see if you can't reapply or did you get fired?
There
Right.
you go.
Can't go
Oh,
back.
You said a
oh.
lot right there.
There you
Yeah.
You
go.
might not be able to go back. You might be running your mouth like you got all this in the bucket. But a lot of people run their mouths like they had this, that, and the third. A lot of times that's just figments of their imagination. That's all drummed up in their
Hmm.
head. That wasn't what was real. That's what they
Right.
said to you, which was real. In their head, that's what they really wanted. And they
Right.
see that they can get it from you based on opportunity, being an opportunist, when in fact,
Hmm.
that's not what they had in the first place.
Being
They
a
lying.
hustler.
They lying.
And
Yeah.
you know something else that I've witnessed firsthand from different friends or what have you, is that they get under the impression that, hey, okay, I met Charles, everything is cool, we kicking it,
Hmm.
and I know I want this, and this, but if we're gonna be together, then he'll start to do those things. They
Hmm.
think that they'll get into a relationship or into a situation and they can mold a man
Mm.
into what they want them to be.
And
And
that's the
Right.
that's
dumbest
not
thing ever.
realistic. And
Yeah.
so that's what leave a lot of people frustrated and confused. And that's why all the confusion and drama is. Because one thing about it, what you see with me and what you meet from day one, this is who I am. I
Right.
had a conversation with my husband earlier,
Uh-huh.
and he said, you know what? You're stubborn. He said, you've been that way for 20 years, the first day I met you.
Mm.
It's who I am. So
Right.
somebody can meet me and say, oh, Rika's a little stubborn, but it's okay. But I would
Hmm.
hope that they wouldn't think that they would go into another phase of life and they can break me out of that. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
That's
And I
Right.
right.
see so
That's right.
many
Yeah.
people do it. They feel like, well, I'm his woman now, so he should do this, and this. But if you did not see
Mm-mm.
those type of characteristics or that, him being that person
Right.
at this when you first met him, what makes you think
You can
sleeping
break. You
with
can
him
break them. You can break them. Yeah.
is
Right.
gonna make him change?
See, that's
And
Right.
where
that's
that's
not.
where a problem like that. People think the investment of their genitalia is gonna make a difference in the equation. Your body parts don't change nothing. That ain't gonna change
Exactly.
nothing because they didn't already have somebody else's body parts. So that ain't
Mm-hmm.
gonna help you in that regard. You may as well get that out your head. Women, I mean, even some guys think they're going to, lay somebody down into submission. That ain't going to change nothing. If she
Mm,
ain't submissive, she ain't going to become submissive because of
mm,
that. That ain't,
mm,
no. If you're in our age group, this ain't your first walk in the park. This ain't the first person you've been with. You're going to be exactly who you are.
mm.
That's just the reality of it. And people have to realize something. You have to be a chameleon when it comes to relationships. If you're an older person and you're in a relationship, you have to be a chameleon. Guess what? You got to change your colors to match that person. So you can't look at them and trying to get them to change. You have to say, oh, okay, he wears stripes. Let me put on some striped stuff to match what he's doing. Because it's not gonna change. It's not gonna change who that person is. Because if they start to give you the appearance that they're doing it, they're only doing it for a certain amount of time to get what they want out of the equation. Then they're
Yeah,
gonna go
right.
right back to who they were in the first place. That behavior is not going anywhere. We are who we are at the core. We may do a little tweaking here, there, and the other, but the catalyst of change is usually adversity, and it's usually not from a relationship, it's from a life altering experience that makes a person become something different at our age group, especially. People don't change just off the fact of, oh, I'm going to be with you now. No, because I was with somebody else before I got to you. So if I didn't change then, I'm not going to change now. People are who they are at the core, and we have to respect that if we want to be with that person. I'm gonna go to the comments. Katonia has on here, wow, the tiptoeing between the mother and children's father. That's deep, but so real in the day and time. Katonia says, fact is when you're commit to someone who has kids, you also committed to their children. It's a package deal. Let's see. I'm trying to see. I saw somebody else had a really long one on here. I think it was good. Oh yes, Kimberly Diva. She says, I have two children, 14 and 5, and I will not and do not invest in any relationship that I feel is not good for myself and my children. When I finally introduced my guy to them, I wouldn't have moved forward or even considered marriage if the chemistry was not there between him and my children. I too felt like my children were not his responsibility and still don't until we do marry. I deal with their fathers and I take care of my kids before I met him and will continue to do so. Thankfully, my guy is very much a family man and God fearing, so he and my children get along very well. That's good. Um, Katonia says good stuff. Sometimes you have to allow room or flexibility for unplanned times. Time is not just going out. I'm looking to connect with you, not the whole world. Exactly. Kimberly Diva says when a man or woman is in love, they make time, not excuses. The time you sow is what you'll also reap. Yep, that's very true. Um, Gracia says STFU and enjoying yourself. Hilarious. So Kimberly C. Diva said it is truly an imbalance, or can the person not feel the other one's orders? And then Kimberly Diva says exactly, P, is not fair to bankrupt one person while the other flourishes and prospers. You cannot make up time. You must make deposits in both accounts. Absolutely.
True.
Absolutely. Yeah, people have a tendency to want something that they're not willing to give themselves. Um,
Mhm.
Gracie says, so true, P Coffee. When you put it all on the platter first, you have only thing you have left is crumbs.
Amen.
Tennille says, spend time with who wants to spend time with you. Simple. If he doesn't have time, neither should you. Okay, and there it is.
Mhm.
And then Kimberly Diva said, there's nothing special about you to change a person. That's very true.
But here's one quick note. I know the hour's going late about time, right?
Hmm.
Think about this. Unless somebody is retired, they're just like the designated sugar mama or sugar daddy, right? That's their time.
Speak
Mark,
on it.
mark my words. Don't nobody really just have a whole block of time as a
Right,
grown man. I'm gonna tell you. So
right.
if he does, guess who he's looking to take care of him? You.
You,
He
right.
ain't working or he half doing this, that, and the other. But when somebody got something on their brain, they focus, or they busy, or they got something going on. So
Right.
if you got this person that's just available to play and be at your beck and meet you for lunch every 5 days a week, he ain't working somewhere.
I was
Or
about to say, yep.
something ain't adding up. So 9 times out of 10, you are carrying the bulk of that financial load. I guarantee you. It just ain't nobody's not just having, and it's a part of some of this time stuff. We have to say to ourselves, okay, I deserve this. I'm a great woman, so I need to have time. I want to be dated, courted. Great, that's fair. But when it gets to a point where you get angry and your whole, when sometimes we can get out of our bodies over this whole time thing, and we got to
Mm,
just be realistic and say, look. At the end of the day, the man or the woman is just doing what they got to. They work, they got whatever's going on. They have children, they spending time with over there. So we can agree to meet at a happy medium that we can both walk away peaceful and say I have enough to be satisfied. But this
Right.
stuff of just expecting somebody to lay down their life on the train track and be decapitated is crazy. You just need to
Not the
yeah,
decapitation.
times
Not
of it.
the decapitation. That's a little extreme, Charles.
I'm tell you.
Man.
Hey man, church finger.
You know what? I think the big picture is the communication. Because if nobody says anything, then no one knows the desired
Yeah.
outcome. So, like what you said, Charles, but it would have to be stated, hey, listen, I'm busy. I got this going, I got that going. I can give you this, and this is literally all that I can give you. I have nothing else outside of this. It's like, when I go and do trades, when I trade, it's like I have a certain amount of money in the account. And what happens is once I get to a certain plateau, that account freezes off and says you cannot trade anymore until you close out these trades in profit. Basically saying if these trades don't profit, then you're going to be losing money. And so you don't have enough risk to reward equation to keep trading. You understand what I'm saying? So that's how we have to think about with these relationships. Somebody needs to be able to communicate the risk versus the reward. If you want to give me 3 hours, then I need to take the 3 hours and run with it. Instead of me trying to say, oh, I need 5 hours. Well, no, that my account doesn't hold 5 hours worth of time. I don't have 5 hours worth of time to give you. I have 3 hours worth of time, and that's the reward for you and the benefit for me as well, because I can build my account from there. But if you go 5 hours, I'm gonna bankrupt myself, and I'm gonna bring harm to myself by giving you 5 hours because I got something else going on.
Hey, I wanted to address some of I read some of these comments earlier, and I wanted to address just a couple of thought processes that I have. And those that know me, they know I don't necessarily subscribe to popular thought. So if I step on your toes, good. So yeah, I just said that. Yeah, I just said that. So when it
Wow.
comes to time and everything else in relationships, I just to put something on your mind, especially based on what I was talking about earlier. Are you trying to spend time with me in the form of having intimacy, or are you just trying to be entertained? Number one. Because if you're just strictly trying to be entertained, I'm not about to chase you around. I'm a grown man and I got things going on, like y'all said.
Right.
The second one is, and it was a meme that I used to see. I haven't seen it in a while. I think it had T.I. on it. And it said, and this goes for both, even though I'm saying ladies, this actually goes for both sides of the equation here. And it says that if you want a person, let's just say person, if you want a person that actually has something going for them, actually has nice things or whatever the case may be, then basically be prepared to have a busy person.
Right.
Because they're going to be goal oriented and they're going to be following what those dreams are, like I am with my acting and like I am with my job and with my kids, etc. Right? So if you're requiring all that much more time and you know this person is goal oriented, then all you saw was the facade and that's what you thought you wanted, but you're not ready for a real investment.
Right.
And the last thing is this, and this is what we also have to come to grips with and what we need to decipher whenever we're in relationships. When people are always talking about being so damn busy, being so busy or whatever the case may be, and this is something you've heard before, Coffee, is that you got to understand and you got to decipher whether they are really busy because they're goal oriented or if they're just busy being busy, if you know what I mean. Because there's a lot of people that's busy being busy. That's all they're doing.
That's
Man,
true.
I'm busy. I can't get here and everything else. And you ask them what they did. What'd you do a couple days ago and everything when I couldn't get you? Oh, man, I was sitting at the house watching TV.
Wow. So you're busy being busy.
But you was busy.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like I said, that's the things that, I just feel that you got to decipher if you're really trying to put together a relationship, you're trying to build something. If you're going to invest, then you're investing, with the intention of a ROI, a return on that investment, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why I was saying earlier when I first started, when we opened up, is a true investor understands that you don't get a ROI immediately.
Right.
So if you play in the stock market and you throw your money in there and you thinking you about to get rich in the next 2 weeks, I hate to tell you, you're fooling yourself. You know what I'm saying? you got to be ready for a long-term investment to actually reap the rewards and the benefits of that initial investment that you actually done. The same thing with like say for instance a real estate agent. You don't go show a house today and then possibly,
Close
you
the mouth.
could
Right.
happen, but the likelihood is low. Using
Right.
insurance tools, the likelihood is low, but you could go show a house and make a sale immediately.
Right.
But the likelihood is that you're going to show that house 2, 3, 4 times with different people. You're also going to have one client that you're going to probably show 20 houses with before they find something that they like.
Right.
You got to be ready for that investment so that way you can reap the reward of when that house is actually sold. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like I said, are you trying to be entertained or are you looking for intimacy? And are you just busy being busy or are you really trying to build something?
Good stuff.
That's good. That's good. Okay, so you guys, we are at the top of the hour. It is 9:05. Oh my God. I mean, this is some really good information. Super good information, but we definitely want to be cognizant of the time and our viewers and those actually on the panel tonight with your busy schedules. First of all, thank you guys for being on the panel tonight with us. We really appreciate it. Rika, thank you for coming. Now that you've been baptized, you will be back. We just want you to know that you passed the baptismal session, and you will be on the roster. Charles, add her to the family list.
All right.
So, Rika, as we close, what is your final thoughts about this love and the investment? What is your takeaway?
It's pretty simple. You get out of it what you put into it, and the expectations just have to be clear.
Mhm.
That's really it. It's making sure that this person is worthy of that investment and vice versa.
Right.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
good. That's good. Mr. Dixon, on
Yes,
tonight,
yes.
sir, what is your takeaway from all of this investing, sir? And don't
I
take
would
long,
say
sir. Don't take long, sir, please.
I'm not going to take a lot. Study. I would say study what you're looking to invest in, and make sure it's worth your investment. And if you are going to invest, just give it 100% and be open to the risk. That's all.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Jason, you got any takeaway?
Man, yeah, I do. Look,
There it
man, hey, it was an excellent topic and everything else. I mean, I think at the end of the day, there's a certain responsibility that we must have ourselves. And I would say this, if you, male or female, whatever the case may be, if you find yourself in and out of a lot of relationships, etc., you might want to go look at yourself because you might be a lot more selfish than you think that you're being.
Right.
And you might have a very unrealistic approach or understanding of what it takes in terms of investing in a relationship. If you're in and out of a lot of relationships, then you're probably looking to gain more than you're willing to give. Or you need to understand that investment just hasn't come full cycle yet. You know what I'm saying? So that return that you're looking for is maybe not there yet. So, just communicate. If you're really looking for being with somebody for the long haul, be ready because you're going to have to spend some time with that and understand that there's differing schedules, there's kids there, especially at our age, there's kids,
Right.
there's different things that's going on, so if you're not willing to put in that time, then, at least just be upfront about it. If you're just trying to smash, just say you're trying to smash. I mean, colloquialism. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're really trying to spend some time with somebody, because if you're saying that you want to move forward and everything else, then you got to be willing to take whatever comes along with that.
That's
Very
right.
true.
Yeah.
Well, I got 3 C's in mind: communication, connection, and consideration. I think if you have those 3 things, you'll be able to build something healthy in a relationship that you're invested in. Communication, consideration, and connection. That is my takeaway for tonight. Mr. Dixon, any closing remarks, sir, as we shut down the ministries?
I would just suggest the man in Ricky's future to
Exactly.
to bring the ring to the first date so that he can meet the kids immediately. They can get
Right?
move on with their life. That's all.
Let the choking out begin.
Oh, Lord. Rika, girl, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Rika.
We had to break her in. We had to break Rika in. It's all right.
Exactly.
On behalf of the division of the ladies of the 49ers family, I want to apologize on behalf of these gentlemen. They know not what they say.
They bring ring on the first day. Oh,
God's going to send him with the ring on the first day. He's going to say, I already know that you have these 2 children you don't want me to meet, so take the ring tonight, and we're going to go on from here.
Oh, and don't bring no ring out the Cracker Jack box either. Don't get one out of the Cracker Jack box.
It's the thought that counts.
Yes.
That's right. That's from that last show when he was talking about putting wood on somebody's finger.
Yeah.
Somebody give
he
him some
just
wood.
bringing some lifesavers.
Right,
Yeah.
Lifesavers. Right, exactly. All right, y'all. So thank you so much again for your time tonight. This has been a great show, awesome topic. I appreciate you guys coming on the show tonight. Mr. Dixon, we'll see you same bat time, same bat channel on next week. We got another juicy topic in the works, and we'll see you guys then. Thanks again, guys. Have a great night.
Jason. All right, Rika. Nice to meet y'all. All right.
All right, y'all have a good one.
All right.
All right.
All right.